Hello and welcome. My name is Jonathan, founder of SLPscheduler.com. SLP Scheduler is an intelligent scheduling solution for school-based speech-language pathologists, and I'd like to give you a quick introduction to what SLP Scheduler can do for your caseload this year. So let's get started. I've already entered my caseload into the caseload editor. There are 42 students, each with a single session per week. Let's scroll through and see how it looks. There's room here for a custom description for every caseload, as well as dates for start and end of the school year. I can enter the different buildings that I have to travel to, as well as the travel times to and from those buildings. If my therapy sessions have to align with class periods, there's a place to enter what those class periods are. I can also enter any schedules that are tied to the building or the grade, such as lunch and recess. I can list all of the primary classroom teachers that are a part of my caseload, as well as attaching schedules to each one of those primary classroom teachers, such as specials. I can define custom categories that would keep different students from being mixed together in therapy sessions. The example I'm using here is first or dominant language, and the values for that category are English and Spanish. I can define the different therapists as a part of my caseload. Here I have two fictitious therapists, Marie and Erica. I can switch between them by selecting the tabs here on the left. For each therapist, the following information: their name, as well as their work week. Here I have a traditional work week, Monday through Friday, with therapist start times and end times. There's the ability to lock a therapist to a building on a specific day of the week, and you can even choose what building they are locked to if that's the scenario. You can define different preferences on a per therapist basis, such as whether you want a buffer at the beginning and end of your workday, also how long of a lunchtime, and whether you want any time after your therapy sessions. You can define a lunchtime window. This is the window through which the scheduler will try to get you a lunchtime somewhere during this window. You can also schedule different time blocks throughout the work week where you are not scheduling therapy, such as for evaluations and billing. You can enter different preferences regarding groups and sessions. You can also enter preferences that tell the scheduler exactly how to optimize a schedule. You can define different student rotations in case your school doesn't use the standard Monday through Friday. You can define any length rotation. It could be 3, 4, 6, or 10 days, any number really. You can define different start and end times for students in that rotation, and you can even cascade different rotations on top of one another, which is useful in case you as a therapist have to service students from two different buildings, one of which is on one rotation, one of which is on a different. And now for the students. Like I said, I have 42 students in my caseload, and I can switch between them by selecting the tabs here on the left. For a typical student, there's the name, what building, their grade, their primary classroom teacher, the category that we defined up above. So in this case, the first language is English for this student, what rotation they use, how many days apart their sessions have to be, and we also define those sessions. So like I said, every student in this caseload has a single session per week, which means that this student will be seen once for articulation, 20 minutes per week. If there is specific availability criteria per student, those can also be entered on a per student basis. However, most of the availability restrictions are entered with the building, grade, or primary classroom teacher far above. Alright, I will click Save, and that will take me back to my caseload detail page. Since my caseload is fully entered and ready to go, I'm going to click the big green schedule button and we'll be off to the races. If the server farm isn't currently active, it can take between 5 and 15 minutes before you see any activity here. Let's fast forward to when the server farm starts working on my caseload. Alright, about 15 minutes have passed, and now you can see that the server farm is working on 5 candidate schedules for me. You can see that the stage for each one of these candidate schedules says solving. If all goes well, I'll have 5 different candidate schedules ready for me once the server farm is complete. We can watch the progress here on the caseload detail page while the server farm crunches away. And let's fast forward to when we have our first result. Alright, 13 minutes have passed, and we see that 4 out of the 5 candidate schedules have turned from solving to optimizing. The first of those 5 actually turned to optimizing at about the 7-minute mark. And what it means when it moves from solving to optimizing is that the server farm has found a workable schedule, and it is no longer focused on finding a workable schedule. It's now focused on fine-tuning that schedule to maximize the preferences that are important to me. So I've told the scheduling engine to maximize my productivity, which means that the scheduler is now working to shuffle the schedule around to get me the largest blocks of free time as possible in my schedule. I'll then use these free blocks for all of my indirect services and also to help preserve my sanity. Every minute or so, this web page continues to update with the latest status from each of these 5 candidate schedules, and we will fast forward now to when our first schedule has been generated. Alright, we are at the 38-minute mark. I just received 2 emails from SLP Scheduler indicating that 2 of my candidate schedules have successfully completed. They were number 2 and number 3 in the list, which means one of the ones that it is still working on will have a higher score. Let's fast forward to when we have all 5 results ready to go. Alright, the scheduler has completed generating schedules for all 5 of the candidate schedules. The quickest to finish took about 37 minutes. The longest to finish took 1 hour and 17 minutes. Interestingly, the one that took 1 hour and 17 minutes was in last place in terms of its score nearly the entire time until right before it finished, and it produced a pretty good schedule. So you can see here the different scores listed in the column on the right hand side. These scores map to the preferences that I set forth inside my caseload. All 5 of these schedules here meet all of the constraints listed in my caseload. These here are ranked again according to my preference. So let's have a look at the first place, the best scored schedule. So this schedule looks like has Marie beginning with a nice morning buffer. The start of her therapist day was 7:30. The start of the student day was 8 o'clock. First session is not until 9:45. It looks like Marie has sessions at George Washington, the building, all day long. Marie was listed as bilingual, so she has some sessions with students that have English as their first language. Other sessions that have Spanish-speaking students as their first language. Those are never mixed, but those are throughout the day for Marie on Monday. Tuesday, Marie is at JFK with only 2 sessions, and that's it. No sessions scheduled for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for Marie. For Erica, who was listed as a therapist who is a first language of English only. As you can see, Erica's schedule only has students also who have their first language as English. Erica has no sessions on Monday, Tuesday. Erica has a very full Wednesday, but also a completely free Thursday, Friday. It looks like on Wednesday, Erica is moving between JFK for the first session, George Washington for the second and third, and then JFK for the remaining sessions. There is enough time between the 11 o'clock end of the session at George Washington and the 12 noon begin of the next session at JFK, both for lunchtime and for travel time. So as you can see, this meets all of the criteria set forth in my caseload. I'll jump back a level here. And if I scroll down, this will display some statistics about this schedule, which is helpful if I want to try to compare aspects of 2 of the different generated schedules. And so we'll bump back to see those lists of schedules again. All 5 are ready here. And there are 4 more schedules available to me that I haven't cracked open yet. I will pick my favorite from among them, and I will use that as my starting point for my schedule this school year. And that's all there is to it. You can learn more about SLP Scheduler at our website, slpscheduler.com. It's free to register, look around, and even play around with the caseload editor. You can begin your free 7-day trial whenever you're ready to click the big green schedule button. If you have questions or comments, please reach out to us at slpscheduler.com. Thanks for watching.